the summer of 1683, the world stood at a crossroads. Two great civilizations, the Christian powers of Central Europe and the vast, multi-ethnic Ottoman Empire, were about to collide in a confrontation that would shape the continent's future for centuries. And at the center of it all was a single city, Vienna. This is the story of the siege that nearly toppled a European capital, the battle that stopped a centuries-long expansion, and the daring cavalry charge that turned the tide of history. This is the Battle of Vienna. To understand the significance of 1683, we must first understand Vienna's place in the world. For centuries, the city served as the seat of the Habsburg dynasty, the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, and the final frontier separating Central Europe from the Ottoman-controlled Balkans. Vienna was a political symbol, a strategic fortress, and, perhaps above all, a prize the Ottoman Empire had coveted for generations. By the late 17th century, the Ottoman Empire was still one of the most powerful states on Earth. Spanning 3 continents, it commanded formidable armies, an advanced administrative system, and immense cultural influence. But it also harbored an ambition: to press deeper into Europe, to capture Vienna, and to open the way toward the rich lands of southern Germany. The Ottomans had attempted this once before, in 1529, but Vienna had survived. To the Ottoman court, this unfinished business remained a lingering wound. By 1682, circumstances favored the empire. The Habsburgs were distracted by internal conflicts. Bitter religious divisions fractured the states of the Holy Roman Empire, and in the east, the Ottomans saw an opportunity. Under Sultan Mehmet IV, the empire dispatched a massive force. Some estimates say between 150,000 and 200,000 men toward the Austrian frontier. The campaign would be commanded by one of the empire's most experienced statesmen, Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha. Mustafa envisioned more than a victory. He wanted Vienna intact, not destroyed. He wanted to take the city as a functioning jewel for the Ottoman Empire, prestigious, wealthy, and symbolic. And if he achieved that, he believed it would transform the empire's fortunes and cement his own legacy. In the spring of 1683, the Ottoman army marched westward, crossing rivers and plains, gathering contingents from across the empire. As they advanced, smaller fortresses fell, clearing the path to Vienna. By July, the Ottomans had arrived at the city's gates. Vienna braced itself. The city's defenders numbered roughly 15,000 soldiers, Austrian regulars, local militia, and volunteers from across the empire. Their commander, Count Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg, was a seasoned officer known for his discipline and relentless resolve. He understood their situation clearly. No reinforcements were close enough to help. Vienna would have to hold out alone. The Ottoman army surrounded the city, constructing trenches and siege lines, cutting all supply routes. Their cannons began to thunder. For weeks, the bombardment shook the city's walls, collapsing houses, splintering towers, and filling the streets with rubble. Yet the greatest danger came not from artillery, but from beneath the ground. The Ottomans were masters of sapping, digging tunnels under city walls, and planting explosives to collapse the fortifications. Viennese engineers fought back with their own counter-tunnels, listening for the scrape of Ottoman shovels through the soil. Underground battles took place in complete darkness, miners fighting with knives, hammers, and whatever tools they carried. Inside the city, conditions worsened. Food dwindled. Water sources became contaminated. Disease spread among civilians hiding in cellars and churches. Starhemberg repeatedly turned down demands to surrender, even as casualties rose. The defenders' message was simple and unwavering: we will hold until help arrives. But the question tormented everyone in Vienna: would help arrive at all? Meanwhile, beyond the walls, diplomatic efforts moved quickly. The Habsburg Emperor, Leopold I, had fled Vienna and was urgently rallying allies. But not all European powers were eager to fight. The Holy Roman Empire was politically fragmented, and past rivalries complicated any hope for unity. Yet one king saw the threat with unmistakable clarity. In the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, King John III Sobieski recognized that if Vienna fell, Poland would be next. He agreed to lead a relief army, one that would combine German, Austrian, and Polish forces under a single command. Sobieski's army marched with extraordinary speed, crossing the Carpathians and moving down into the Danube Valley. His troops included infantry, artillery, and most importantly, the Winged Hussars, Poland's elite heavy cavalry, renowned for their discipline and devastating battlefield charges. By early September, Sobieski and his allies had gathered near Vienna. They had assembled what was likely the largest Christian field army of the century, around 70,000 men. Their challenge was daunting. The Ottomans controlled the high ground around Vienna. Reaching the city required climbing forested mountains, moving through Ottoman outposts, and approaching fortified lines. But Sobieski was determined. He took command of the coalition and prepared for battle. At dawn, on September 12, 1683, the relief army advanced. The battle began on the flanks. Imperial and Bavarian troops pushed into the wooded hills, attempting to drive Ottoman units from their defensive positions. Polish infantry fought their way through ravines and terraces, slowly tightening their grip on the ridgeline above the city. Below, Vienna endured its darkest hour. Kara Mustafa launched a final assault, believing the city was close to collapse. Ottoman infantry surged forward, detonating mines under the walls, creating breaches that defenders scrambled to fill. Starhemberg's exhausted troops fought desperately to prevent the Ottomans from pouring into the city. Smoke filled the sky, drums echoed across the plains. And then, through the haze of battle, something changed. From the hills above Vienna, the Ottoman soldiers saw movement, then flashes of metal, then entire columns emerging from the trees. The relief army had broken through the ridgeline. Kara Mustafa understood the danger. If he lost the high ground, his entire siege operation would unravel. He redeployed his troops to confront Sobieski's forces, but the Christian coalition continued to press forward. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The Ottoman lines thinned under pressure. And then Sobieski made his final decision. As the afternoon light began to fade, the moment arrived. Sobieski had positioned nearly 18,000 cavalry, including several thousand Winged Hussars, along the slopes above Vienna. It was the largest cavalry grouping he had ever commanded. The ground was ideal for a downhill charge, and the Ottoman forces were weakening under the pressure of the day's fighting. Sobieski raised his hand. The trumpets sounded, and the largest cavalry charge in recorded history began. The Winged Hussars thundered downhill, their long lances leveled, their feathered wings catching the wind. They slammed into the Ottoman ranks with overwhelming force. The impact shattered the center of Kara Mustafa's army. The rest of the cavalry poured in behind them. The Ottoman line buckled, then broke. Panic spread as soldiers fled toward the river or the safety of their camp. Sobieski rode at the front of the charge, leading it personally, a rare sight for a monarch, and one that cemented his legend. By sunset, the battle was over. The siege of Vienna had been lifted. Vienna was saved. Exhausted defenders embraced the soldiers who had come to relieve them. Fires burned across the abandoned Ottoman camp, where the coalition forces found vast supplies of food, equipment, luxury goods, and even the first sacks of coffee that would later help give birth to Vienna's cafe culture. Kara Mustafa retreated with the remnants of his army. In the Ottoman Empire, the defeat was seen as catastrophic. The Grand Vizier was executed weeks later on the Sultan's orders. For Europe, the victory was transformative. The Battle of Vienna marked the turning point in the centuries-long struggle between the Habsburgs and the Ottomans. From this moment on, the Ottoman Empire steadily lost ground in Central Europe, eventually withdrawing from Hungary and parts of the Balkans. The Holy League's triumph also reshaped alliances, strengthened the Habsburg monarchy, and elevated Poland's prestige, though Sobieski himself would later face political challenges at home. In cultural memory, the battle became larger than life. The Winged Hussars were celebrated as saviors of Europe. The defense of Vienna became a symbol of unity against adversity. And the events of 1683 continue to echo in historical discussions, popular culture, and national narratives to this day. The Battle of Vienna was more than a clash of armies. It was a confrontation between empires, ideologies, and histories. Yet it was also a human story, a story of civilians trapped in a besieged city, of soldiers marching incredible distances to aid their allies, of commanders making decisions that would ripple through centuries. Above all, it is a reminder of how a single moment, one charge, one battle, can alter the course of history. In 1683, on the slopes above Vienna, Europe stood on a knife's edge, and when the dust settled, the world had changed.